Hey, how you doing? I'm Jeremy. Thanks for coming. I've got two channels on YouTube: Practical Focused Improvement, this one, and then I have Freedom of Expression. If you're on any other site, it's all combined into one. Do 2 videos a day. The improvement stuff first. I've kind of coined it for a noble house. Might as well have fun. Go big, go home. And so this is the first one of the day, and I tell you what, I'm so frustrated with this. This is something that I've been trying to figure out for quite a while, for a couple of years, and it just makes me want to pull the last of my hair out. I don't have very much left, but I tell you what, whenever I get into this crap, it's just like, I don't give a damn anymore. It's just, let's just throw it all out the window, because everything out here is just... Anyways, today I want to talk about how I have failed at understanding dieting with fasting, or just figuring out the time to eat. There's so much garbage out there. And it's because I don't trust. I don't trust at all. Let me give you an example. So whenever I see something like this is from the channel Bushinger Wilmick Clinic, the fasting experts, my ass. Scientific review, 100 years of clinical fasting expert and latest research 2020. I don't trust this at all. Everything about this is wrong. So let me show you. Just within not even a minute. Let me show you what the hell's wrong with this. So here's some stupid nonsense that means nothing. Study unraveling the health effects of fasting, long road from obesity treatment to healthy, I guess there's more, lifespan. Okay, I don't care about any of this. You know why? Because, for one, you didn't name the study. You are saying absolutely nothing to me. You're just throwing around a buzzword, study. It's like, no, well, what are you talking about? Well, unraveling the health effects of fasting? Unraveling? You know what? I don't need fluff in this either. Just get to the damn point. A long road? What is a long road? I don't need metaphors for this either. Do not talk down to me. I want to know the facts. I want to know the truth. So you can save your novelization for some virtue signaling a-hole out there. I don't want it. And it's because of junk like this is why all of this is just all over the place. That's 3 seconds in. Let's see what else we have. Okay, we have stupid guitar music. What the hell does that have to do with anything? Why are you doing that? I don't want to hear it. Why are you trying to make me feel better through music? Are you about to shovel some crap down my throat? And so you're trying to soothe it somehow? I don't care for this fluff, this nonsense. 7 seconds in. Why are you showing me this? Why are you showing me the water? Why are you showing me gardening? I don't care about your landscaping. All I see is corruption. All I see is we have a lot of money because we know how to sweet talk our way into the pockets of politicians or celebrities or whatever. And yeah, come here. We'll give you a time that you're going to be able to remember. It's going to be a vacation. It's going to be fun. Doesn't matter if it's true. You're going to have a great time. Take pictures, post it on Instagram, show your friends and family how much better you are, and success. You've got another notch in your belt. 11 seconds in.
Hello everybody. I am Dr. Françoise Wilhelmi de Toledo, the scientific director of the Buchinger Wilhelmi Clinics in Überlingen, south of Germany.
Again, look at how nice this little setting is. It's all nice and white and pristine and clean. It's got this stupid pink flower in there for some damn reason, and just this glass of water because, yeah, we have to show up. Get rid of this crap. I don't give a damn for any of it.
In Überlingen, south of Germany, and Marbella, south of Spain. Today I'm very happy to present you.
I do not give a damn about your feelings. I do not care if you're happy about this or not. You can take your feelings and shove them.
Review article that has been published in 2020 June, some days ago, in Annals of Medicine.
Finally, we get to an article, and it's the same stupid title that they showed. No, yep, it's just filled with buzzwords and just crap.
The authors are Franziska Grundler, my co-author, and myself, and the partners we have in Milan, specialist on lipids, Professore Cesare Siertori and Massimiliano Ruccica. This is a topic of fasting, of course.
Okay, whatever. I don't care. All I see is just glittery glitz, nonsense, Instagram moments. That's all I see. Corruption and money and all that stuff. Could be wrong. Could be legitimate. Don't know. Don't care. You are wasting my time. And it was just one thing after another within it. We're not even at a minute yet. And it was all this worthless trash. Don't pander to me. It's like, go talk to a child. It's like, no. Just no. This is just absolutely 100% one of the things that leads to the bullshit that we have to deal with sorting throughout anything. Anyways. So here, let's get into it. So now here we have, this is over here on the left, Dr. Satchin Panda, and the person giving the interview here is Dr. Rhonda Patrick. This video is what time to start eating when doing time-restricted eating, Satchin Panda, and this is from the YouTube video Found My Fitness Clips, and this is her channel. They're both doctors. And what's great about, she does great work. I first experienced her on the Joe Rogan podcast, and she's just blasting out medical terminology like mad. And then whenever she gets into something, she tries to make this as clear as possible. So for example, right now, she has this little insert in her video, and it says, one suggestion on how to improve sleep is light-filled environments is to wear wavelength blocking glasses, which I have everything turned off, and I have blackout curtains because I've done videos on this. This can reduce the blue light that enters the eye, hereby promoting melatonin release and sleep. So if you had to look at, I guess, electronic devices right before you went to bed or really late or something like that, I guess that would be helpful. And I don't know anything about the blue light stuff in the eyes. I know they talk about that stuff, but I haven't looked into it. People that wore short wavelength blocking glasses 3 hours before bedtime, oh wow, 3 hours, had a 58% increase in melatonin levels. And then she has this number one right here, and this is what the research paper is that she's citing. Great! It's not all this fluff. There's no pretty landscapes. There's no dumbass music here. It's just them talking, and it's just, and you're not going to follow some of it, but they can't. They're the professionals. Now, this is what my suggestion is that, and what I've done is that I found an expert, and that's her. And so I looked into her enough that it was like, yep, really seems like she really knows what she's talking about. And so from here on out, since I made that decision, it's like I'm not going to double check all this work that she's doing. Maybe once in a blue moon, I might check up on it to make sure that everything's still legitimate. But for the most part, hell no. And you know why? Because she's a doctor. She has her PhD. She's done experiments. She talks to all these people. I don't have time to do that. She's done the work. It's literally impossible for me to do it no matter how much that I want to. The only way for me to do it would be to stop doing everything and become a doctor and then start talking to all these people and sorting through all the research. Yep. And that's part of what I'm doing, is that she's done this to a degree, and then I'm trying to bring it all together, which, is sleeping and oral hygiene care, which I made a video about that because I made several and then gave my conclusions about, okay, well, it looks like you need these 2 different mouthwashes, a water flosser, and then how does that work out in the schedule? Broke it all down because that they kind of do this a little bit, but I did that, and it's like it's time to move on. It's the next thing, and so now we're at fasting. This is what this is about right now. Fasting. I wanted to do more. It was like, well, let's knock it all out. Can't do it. Too much, and there's so much trash out there. So let's listen to her.
Another sort of question that sort of relates to this is, and people ask this all the time, is what about people that start eating later in the day? For example, they wake up 8 in the morning, but they don't eat until noon. So let's say they eat their first bite of food at noon, and they stop eating at 8 p.m. So that's 8-hour TRE eating window, and they go to bed by 11 or so. Do they still have the same benefits, or are they losing because it's like the time restricted eating window is kind of shifted to later, and obviously there's a light darkness component?
And he just flat out says, "Oh, we don't know. They haven't done any research on it."
Earlier in the day, they have less insulin spike, less glucose spike, etc. Having said that,
something that I've noticed with doing all this, it seems like insulin spikes are a big deal. You don't want them. You can have them. We do have them. You have them every time that you eat, but you don't want to. It seems like you don't want them to get too large. And so if you're eating whole foods, so like just pure raw foods, meat, vegetables, eggs, fruits, versus processed stuff where it comes in a can or a box or something like that, potato chips, cereal, whatever. It's like rice, noodles. It's like that stuff's been handled. It's been dealt with to make it survive on the shelves longer. And so it's kind of stripped of a lot of stuff. And because it has, and it's all that crap's got sugar added to it, not only does it make your insulin go up, but it like shoots it up to these horrible levels that you don't want it. At least that's something that I see constantly. And I've heard this constantly doing this, not just today, but previously.
we don't know for people who are starting their food every day at noon, whether their best insulin sensitivity is at noon or it actually happened at 8 o'clock in the morning. So that information we don't know. So this is where,
you know what? No pretty music, no pretty pictures, no pretty places to sit down. These two people, they strike me as, yeah, you know what? We're the real deal. We're doing the research. We've got all this going on. We're not looking for money. We're not looking for sponsors. We're not looking for all this fancy, pretty, trash, fluff stuff. It's like, we want to know. And we're doing the work to find out. And again, maybe they are too. I hope so. That'd be nice. But I don't trust them. It's just because I don't trust big government. I don't trust big business. I don't trust pharma and all that crap. It's like the answer is not take more medicine. The answer is change your damn life. So then that way you don't need the medicine. It's like, yeah, if you have the issue, take the medicine, but it doesn't stop there. If you have problems with diabetes, You don't go into regulating your insulin to help deal with that. That's not where it ends. It's you do that and you make permanent changes to your life with eating and exercising. Stupid. Just stupid. But that's what big pharmaceutical companies want. They want to keep you on their overpriced, hyped up medicine for the rest of your life and your friends and your family, so you keep eating and doing what you're doing, and we'll keep selling you our drugs. Screw that trash.
Some studies needed in human volunteers who are doing this.
I like this one part that he says to, because this is an emphasis of something that I want to do with creating my website. And so he says, this is where some studies need human volunteers who are doing this. Oh, that's so nice.
And maybe some people who are eating, starting to eat at noon, one day, then maybe they can drink a glass of juice at 8 o'clock and pick themselves and get it.
And he's just flat out saying, we need this work done. We need volunteers. We need people who do this. Well, why isn't it happening? No, we have all these electronic devices. We have smartphones, tablets, laptops, tower desk computers, all of these things. And they keep getting smaller, and you can do more with them. Take pictures and videos and audio recordings and text messages, emails, all of this stuff. So why not? You know why? Because it's the same problem with so much of this stuff. It's just there's a problem with too many people that use anonymity, and they've turned it into a weapon. There's not enough verification, and there's a billion things out there, and it's just people who are just talking out of their butts, and they don't know what the hell's going on. And I'm just tired of the lies. And so I try to say this often, is that I'm not trying to say that one thing is right or wrong. I'm not trying to change your minds about anything. I'm just trying to show that there's just a lot of lies, misinformation, confusion, and all this stuff. I'm just fed up with it, and I know how to deal with it, and that's what my website's going to deal with. So if you understand that and you're fed up with it too, then help me out and getting this going as soon as we can. Give the video a like, thumbs up, and subscribe. That's all I need for you right now. So let's continue anyways. And so the video, it's from this is going to be like a 1.5 to 2 hour conversation that she has. That's the way she's done quite a few of her videos. This is an older one. She's pregnant right now. She's already had her kid. I mean, obviously, this is 2019 on the video. And it says they don't know, but they kind of talk about a little bit of this stuff. And then, here, this looks like, yes, a study right here. And this looks like information, and it's like real scientific information.
Like 8 a.m. and then they were doing, 9 p.m. or 8, 7, who knows, what their time window was, right? I mean,
and something new that I've known about it for a little while, but in the grand scheme of things, for me, it's new, and that's circadian rhythms. That you have certain times, because we're animals, that you should be eating, sleeping, all this stuff. It's also kind of new in the community in a way, where it's been there for a long time, but it's more and more research has been done on it, and so it's becoming more and more pronounced. And so I'm going to have to work on this again a day. And it's because one of the problems that I came across was, what is the difference between time-restricted eating and intermittent fasting? And nobody just comes out and say, the difference is, they come really close, but they sound the same to me. They both have two different windows in which you eat, or eat or don't eat. They both have fasting. I don't know what the hell the difference is. I think I kind of got close, but they all suck at it. What's really frustrating is that they all talk about how, especially intermittent fasting, is kind of a blanket catch-all term for all of these things, and people just misuse it all the time. And it's because there's too much information out there. We want things to be as effective and efficient as possible. And they're trying to clean it up, and it's like, good, they should. But part of it is that they haven't quite done it themselves yet, so they're not really solving it whenever they do this stuff. And I understand, I get it. It's because whenever she's doing these things, they're for like an hour or two, and they have a much longer topic, and it's more about, should you be fasting kind of in general is what they're really kind of talking about. So, anyways. And I'll leave the links of all these videos down in the description below. And then he has Dr. Valter Longo's personal approach to fasting and weight loss here. And he's talking about, well, you need to do both. And he talks about why. And it's because they have two different effects. And they're frustrated with these doctors too, and
nutritionists and dietitians and doctors are going to have to get used to this. For example, I say if you're overweight or obese, or you tend to gain weight, then you have to go to this 2 meal a day program, like breakfast and lunch or breakfast and dinner. Okay, as I did for 15 years. Then if you're underweight, though, you can't do that anymore. So you have to go back to 3 meals a day, right? So you have to use fasting and time-restricted feeding and Satchin Panda's work, which are
because I started off looking for just kind of everything with diet, nutrition, and ketos. I started off looking into the keto diet, and it ended up where it's like, you know what? I ended up in fasting because keto was also involved with fasting. And if you do fasting, it produces ketones in your body if you go on long enough. And I tell you what, this whole thing with diet plans such as keto or paleo or whatever, that's his own separate headache. That was even worse. So it's just going to be this fasting. But he gives, and see, there's that circadian rhythms. And this is from Found My Fitness Clips again. So this is hers, and she's taken her long podcast that she did, or whatever you call this, and she broke it down into little clips, so it's a little easier, so you can get to exactly what it is. And he's talking about how both intermittent fasting and time restricted, they both have their ups and downs. And he made it sound like, and they didn't come out and say, oh, I wish I'd been there, that they are both different. They both do different things, and you want to do both of them. And one of the things that he said was that people are just kind of going to do what's going to make them happy. And that seems to be one of the common things that I've also heard with being able to successfully change your diet. Because we all have a diet. It's just, do you regulate it or do you just do whatever? And so if you have an unregulated diet, that's your diet. But people have a very hard time sticking with it. And he was like, if you want to do kind of like precisely what's right with the literature, nobody's ever going to do it because people don't even come close to it now. Even the people who kind of do it the best, they're still off. It's asking too much. And that the goal needs to be making things better instead of perfect. Because being that strict and rigid, it's a recipe for failure. It's like, okay, that makes sense. I've heard that a lot. I understand that too. I mean, I kind of yo-yo diet. However, it yo-yos, but it ends up going down in the long run. And that's why I've been able to lose 50 pounds and keep the damn thing off. So, yeah. And I'm doing this too because I said for 4 weeks I was going to work on all this stuff and bring it down, and I have. I mean, whenever I made that announcement, I'd actually picked out the weekend before, and I was at like in the high 180s. I weighed myself at 180 this morning. So I've lost like 6 pounds in about the week or two. Now, a lot of it was just water and just I got with some friends and we just ate a lot that one day. And so that kind of came off because I was really about 185. But I've lost about 4 pounds, kind of somewhere in there, give or take, you know. So if I keep going out, I want to get down to, I want to be clear of 180 because at 6 foot 180 puts you at fat, and then at 200 that puts me at obese. You hit those markers, you have issues, and that's why those markers are there. It's because it's not just a random number, it's because you start having these issues. And being obese is like the worst. Roughly, it's 40 pounds. Well, no, I guess not. Because it's 160 is about what the BMI says is really good. It's kind of in the middle. That if I go about 20 pounds under, then I'm too thin. I go 20 pounds over, then I'm overweight, and then another 20 pounds, and then I'm in the obesity range. Anyways, then here she has blue zone cities, and this is something that I've seen a lot. And so you can go to, it's either bluezone.com or bluezone.org. And what they've done is that they traveled the world and they were looking for centurions. And they found that these cities have unusually high populations of centurions, people who are 100 years of age or older. They wanted to take a look at these people and see what are the common things that they found. They found things like they eat a wide variety of things. They are not just vegetarians or meat eaters. They eat both, and it's all kinds of meat. So they'll eat red meat, chicken, fish. They'll eat an assortment of vegetables. They won't eat an over amount of meats either. It's just another helping. So whatever like this plate of vegetables is, it's the same size of the meat, and they'll kind of fill the plate with it with equal portions. It's not like they have this one overtowering piece of meat like this huge steak. No, they don't do that. Not that much. They eat the steak, but it takes up the same amount of space on their plate. They also one of the things that they showed was that all of these people are active. 100 years old, it doesn't stop them. There was one of these guys in California. He got an estimate to have his fence replaced. It was going to be several $1,000s. He thought it was too expensive, and so he said, screw it. And this man, this person who was over 100 years old, decided that he's just going to do it himself. And so he ripped up this fence, which was huge because it cost thousands of dollars, and part of the reason why it cost so much was because it was huge. Ripped up the old one and put in the new one. There was a lady in Okinawa, Japan, where she was still getting in her swimsuit and she was going into the ocean and she was catching fish to eat. Over 100 years old. They were all doing this. They did not have a sedentary lifestyle. They were just not sitting around. They got up, they got active. Another thing was that they all had some kind of religion or spirituality. All of it. Now, of course, it was different from California than Japan on their beliefs, but they all had it. All of them. They also had a sense of purpose. They had this, people need me, I have meaning, I have these things that I have to do. I have work that needs to be done. There's more things than that, but it's all really interesting, and it's weird because these people are from all around the world, and these are things that they found that they had in common. And it's like, you know what? I'll listen to that. You know what? These people who do not know each other at all with these same characteristics, like, yep, all right. But anyways, he talks about how you should do both. And it sounds like, and it's because they are two different diets, so they do two different things. He made it sound like if you're going to do time-restricted dieting, that's what you kind of want to do the majority of the time because it fits in with your Canadian or circadian rhythms, and that it also fits in with your sensitivity with insulin or whatever. And so it sounded like the times that you want to eat, and it sounded like you wanted to eat at like roughly between 8 and 9 in the morning to about 7 to 8 in the evening. You just want 2 meals. And then you also wanted to do fasting. You want to do everything from intermittent fasting to like a 5-day fast. He also said that you may just want to, that you don't have to completely go without food, and that you can mimic it by still eating food, but just eating less. And so that instead of just not eating nothing for 5 days, each day you just eat less calories. So you keep taking off like 300 calories until you get down to like 500 calories. And then, so that way, like on day 5, you're at like 500 calories or something like that. And then you're done. And then there was this video where she's being interviewed now, and it's because she's talked to all these people who do the research, and because she's a doctor and she's really concerned about her health, and she talks a lot about the gut biome. But you know, now she's being interviewed, and it's kind of like, well, now that you've interviewed all of these people, well, what is this kind of meta-analysis? And a meta-analysis, whenever you're doing meta-research, that's whenever you're looking at all of this different research, and you're looking for, you know, what are these same recurring things, just like with the blue zone thing that I was talking about ago. So what are the things that you've noticed? And this one, and I was interested in this because this was endurance and aerobic training. And they talk about strength training too. You know, what happens if you exercise, and this is actually a Q&A, so I would assume that this would be the end of the video. If you're doing long runs, if you're doing aerobics, and you're fasting, what effects does that have? And she said that if you're doing any kind of aerobic exercising, such as running, for over 60 minutes, it hurts your performance. So if you're going to be doing aerobic exercise for over 60 minutes, you want to have some kind of pre-workout meal. She didn't say when that needed to be, if that needed to be like 10 minutes before you go and exercise or an hour or whatever. I found it that if I eat too soon before I go run, it makes my stomach upset, so I don't like it. You know, maybe I could eat just a little bit, but not a meal. And I know that with people who run like marathons, what they will do is that they will eat really big and load up on carbs the day before. This was something that we did in the Army, was that before a PT test, we did forced hydration. And the day before the PT test, the physical training test, they would usually make us like guzzle down 2 canteen loads of water before you did all that. And so you didn't like just go, but it was, you could usually guzzle down one pretty quick, and then the second one is kind of like, yeah, you would kind of drink through it. And then I tell you what, the next day you were good to go. You could not do that the same day. It just, your stomach's not going to like you for that. So whenever I got older and learned about all this with running, It was the same thing with eating. You kind of load up, and then the day of, it's like you're kind of a little bit back to normal, and you don't really do hardly anything like a couple hours before. Maybe a little bit, but no, you really need to be kind of done well before then, several hours before. Anyways, if you're exercising, doing aerobics 60 hours or 30 minutes, 60 minutes or less, that doesn't seem to have any effect at all. If you're doing strength training, it doesn't seem to have any effect either. In fact, no, I take that back. If you're doing strength training, which it's usually less than an hour with strength training, no matter what. So like if you're lifting weights, it's not going to be more than an hour. And you do it, and you're fasting during this, it will help you produce more ketones. I don't know exactly what the time frame is with all of that. They didn't get that into it, so it has ended up being one stupid thing after another. It's a lot. And I'm going to have to look in it again, because I think what I'm going to have to do is that these videos that they're doing here, they're all at least an hour. Some of these are 2 hours. I think I might have to watch at least a couple of these videos in their entirety and just focus in on fasting. And I'm just going to ignore keto altogether. I think my goals for right now is fasting. Whenever you do longer ranges, longer lasting fasts, that there's all this healing that your body does, because your body can kind of only do a certain amount of things. And so if you're eating, then your blood system is carrying all of this nutrients through your body. And that's all that it's doing, because it's got the food. It can't stay in there. It's got to do something with it. Your digestive system is always going. There's no on and off switch. The only kind of real off switch is you stop stuffing your face. You stop eating. Then there's nothing there to digest. So whenever that happens, there's like this thing that your body kind of transitions, and it takes like 10 hours, 8 to 10 hours to do it. It would depend on the person, man, woman, young, old, stuff like that. But it takes 8 to 10 hours, and then it starts cleaning you out. So if you have defective cells or just dead cells, if there's some damage that needs to be taken care of, now it can do this because it can't digest food because it's not there anymore. And so I guess it takes 8 to 10 hours for all that food to completely digest through your system where it's been used, and it's like nothing else. So now what are we going to do? Oh, let's do this. Makes sense, because it's like you only have so many cells that can carry this stuff. And so it's like, all right, well, it's going to carry food. It's going to carry the nutrients. Oh, it's not there anymore? Well, then we're going to carry something else. It's not like it's unlimited and just do everything. So you have to stop, and they have to switch over. That's what it sounds like. It seems like that's a pretty clear message that they're sending. So I think that the way these videos are going to do, now that I've kind of started in on this improvement thing again, because I started off with it and I was doing a whole bunch of videos and they were just random, and it was a lot, but they weren't structured very well. I think I might go something more for along the lines of Monday through Thursday doing 4 videos, and then on Friday saying, okay, well, this is kind of what we've learned, and then here's how we're going to take this information and apply it. So like with the oral hygiene stuff, it was like, well, here are the products, this is when you do it and how often and all this stuff. And then the last video for the week, it would be, okay, well, you get up in the morning and I'm going to have a cup of coffee and I'm going to have a couple of eggs. And then I'm going to go brush my teeth with just a regular toothbrush with straight bristles so it gets in between the cracks. Because if it's frayed, it doesn't do that anymore. And there's a lot of stuff that's in between your teeth that you need to get off of. You focus on your teeth. You don't press real hard because you don't want to get rid of the enamel, and you don't want receding gums to happen, so you don't want to do, you want even less time on your gums than on your teeth. And then there were 2 different mouthwashes, one that focused heavily on the gums, one that focused more on the teeth. And how often are you going to use it, and then the water flosser, and when you use it in those little dental picks and circular electric toothbrushes, this is when you do it, this is how often, all that kind of stuff. And that's what I'm doing. I'm not perfect on that routine just yet. They say it takes 30 days to do a routine, to really kind of get it in. And that's if you're really good at it. It's like, that's never been my experience. I mean, it's the same thing with the dieting. It's always kind of like this. You get better at it. You kind of yo-yo with it. But whenever you get to that point where you do have it down, where it's like, all right, I hit my goal and I'm there. If you stick at it with 30 days, that's like a big milestone. And I've heard them say this before, that if you really want to do a change in your routine, and if you've got the money, you go on a cruise for 30 days and you can really change up your habits. So if you ever do go on some kind of trip that's like for a month, try it out. You know, say, well, you know what? I've always wanted to do this. That's supposedly a great time to implement something like that. And they talk about this with like drug rehab. Is that part of the problem, is that you get in this routine where it's the same friends, same place, and that whenever you go off to a rehab center, it's why the success rate actually is pretty good while they're there at the rehab center, but whenever they come back home, they relapse. And part of it is because they get in these same damn habits. They're with the same people doing the same things all over, and bada bing, bada boom, there you are doing it all over again. And so it seems to be a reoccurring thing that happens in all of these different things. This, you know, with your habits and your circadian rhythms, I guess, is part of it. So if you've found this interesting and you've learned something and you're interested in, oh yeah, hey, I would like to know what the hell's up with all of this fasting stuff. Oh, and let me go over this a little bit right here to show you kind of where we're at, because I put this down so I can remember this information for the next day, and then also I'll show what my schedule is going to be with all of this stuff. So with dieting, what I have so far, one of the things that I like to do is I like to clearly define things as best as we can. There's dietary restriction, and this is limiting what, the key word is what, you eat or you don't eat. Eating some things and not others. So red meat may be a no, and fish may be a yes. Then there's caloric restriction, which is limiting how much you do and don't eat. You know, and usually we're talking about eating less. There are some skinny people, I guess it would be eating more. Then there's time restriction, and this is limiting when you do and don't eat, eating at set times. And then examples of that is IF, intermittent fasting, and TRF, time restricted fasting. Intermittent fasting is described something as each 24-hour day split into 2 segments, 1 period of time for eating and 1 for fasting. But time restricted fasting is how many hours per day you get to eat versus how long you have to fast. They both have fasting. I think that's pretty clear. But I think with time restricted fasting, I think that's, I don't know. One of them explained it as one of them has a caloric restriction with that. I think that's intermittent fasting. Others didn't have that description. And they all say this too. They all say that intermittent fasting does not have a clear definition. It's like, well, then why don't you clear it up right now? Don't tell me. I mean, I guess, yeah, say that you're going to have problems with it. But then also take that time to clear it up. Intermittent fasting seemed like it had a longer fasting period, and that it was really, you're going to eat here within this window, but I guess it was kind of they weren't too concerned about how many meals. It's like you could eat 2 meals, you could eat 6 meals. You just had this window. And with time restricted fasting, it was kind of like intermittent fasting, but also it was almost like there were 2 fasting periods. It's like, well, you're going to eat at like 8:30 in the morning, then you're really not going to eat anything for the day until like 7 in the evening, and then you'll have your second meal, and then your fasting comes on because you haven't gone long enough in between the 2 time periods to really start in with the fasting. You might have just barely started, but it's not enough that it's not really going to do anything. It's going to be that second one. So, and that was kind of what I was kind of getting out of it. So I'm going to have to get a little bit more into it. And then I also want to get into sugar because I was getting into it a little bit, and it was just like, sugar's just trash. It's just trash. And this also hits hard with cancer. She is just really just proficient in her videos about saying that you have a lot more control than you understand with dealing with cancer. She talked about inflammation. She talked about what it is that cancer cells kind of need to eat, and that you can help regulate all this stuff a lot. There is a little bit of genetics to it, but it's a hell of a lot smaller than what's ever talked about. And that just your diet is a big deal with it. So I think that's right too, because my mom, she died of cancer, and she had the same kind of cancer that which Armstrong is it? There's 2 of them. There's Lance and Neil Armstrong. One of them's the astronaut, one of them's a cyclist. Lance Armstrong is a cyclist, and he had the same kind of cancer, and he fought it. He worked on his diet, he exercised and all this stuff, and supposedly exercising too helps a lot with cancer. So I'm going to do my best to find what I can. I'm going to give it this week. I think it's just going to be fasting and dieting, and I'll try to pull up some research papers. I do that pretty often, and we'll see. So, but because this is such a mess, I'm not. Yes, I can do a second video. It's kind of late, but yeah, there's some stuff that I want to talk about that's going on in the news. So I hope you've enjoyed. If you're interested in all this too, give the video a like, a thumbs up, subscribe, and become a member. We'll catch you again here in a bit. Thanks. Bye.